I want everyone to be able to hear about the 12-step program and how much it's meant to me, even though it's a big part of that program. Anonymity is very important, and I'm not going to mention any other names or anything like that, so excuse me. So I agree that there are many things about the 12-step program that seem like a religion or take the place of it. And however, many of us as individuals and as groups find it important to say that it is not actually a religion, because many newcomers are concerned when they hear God that is this religious? And most of us think of religion as having some kind of defined belief in and definition of God, which it definitely doesn't have. However, yeah, there are many similarities to what we look for in religion, and the basic meaning of religion, at least according to some scholars, is to bind again. So it's about connection with something spiritual or something bigger than ourselves, even if it is just the other people and the group. So I've been involved for a large part of my adult life in one or more 12-step programs. The only one that was about substance abuse, my first one, was Overeaters Anonymous, because that was the drug of choice, as the program says. However, it didn't take many years before I realized that it was dealing with the emotional issues behind it that were the important thing for me. So I spent many years going to Codependence Anonymous, because I had learned very well from my mother to be a total people pleaser. I was well into my adult life before I even knew that I had preferences or choices of my own. I wasn't just here to always do everything for other people. So, and the other one, the one I go to currently is Al-Anon, and I believe my son is an alcoholic. But it's still mostly about reminding myself to take care of myself first, to actually have something to give to help other people, and I really enjoy helping other people still, so that was quite a thing for me to find the balance. So yeah, there's 12 steps we've heard about too. I don't really have time to go in detail into the steps, but they're easy to find online or in books or whatever. And to me, what pretty much says it all is the Serenity Prayer, sometimes called the Alcoholic's Prayer. But, and it starts with God, which I usually don't even say the God part, because I don't know what my higher power or spiritual connection is. Mostly nature, and or just having that group support of being able to share whatever I need to share without, like, I grew up and spent a lot of my life being very shy and afraid to say what I thought, and it certainly was not invited growing up. So just having that space where no one's going to interrupt or criticize or argue was amazing for me. And but also I knew that people understood me and felt like it was the first place where I was really, people really got me and understood me, because listening to their shares, even though a lot of the details are different, a lot of the emotion is so similar. I will come back to the Serenity Prayer, but on that sharing and knowing people understood me, there was a particular person that stands out for me that I met at an annual weekend gathering that we did with the 12-step groups, and she was raised in communist China until she was in her late teens. Her family moved to Vancouver, and so totally different culture, side of the world, no religion, strong religion. However, the emotions of not feeling acceptable or good enough to our parents for totally different reasons, but the emotions were exactly the same. And we became quite good friends and helped each other a lot. So, yeah, the serenity prayer. God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. And I learned eventually that a lot of my people pleasing and doing whatever other people wanted me to do was about control. Making sure people, or trying to make sure that people would continue to accept me, stay with me, like that. And eventually learned that I didn't need to try to control that, and I learned, to mostly let go of that kind of control. And it's, there was a time when I was in a easygoing second marriage, when I didn't go to meetings for probably like 10 years, and yet the principles were always kind of there for me. And then some things came up where I went, oh yeah, like people often say in the meetings, like, I'm going to keep coming for the rest of my life because those old habits can keep coming back. And for a long time I was like, when am I going to stop having so much pain? And that seems to be the only way I learn. And eventually I went, you know what, I keep doing this work and looking into my inner self, and life keeps getting better. So I don't want that to stop. I'm going to keep doing this kind of work. And I'm quite convinced that the 12-step program would be beneficial for just about everybody. One of the other ones I went to was called Adult Children Anonymous, basically the former adult children of alcoholics, but then in the introductory blurb it says children of alcoholics and other dysfunction. Like, none of us had a perfect family growing up, right? So anyway, and yeah, just the there's just so much there. It's hard to explain, but yeah, like my father did to himself and everyone around him, that nothing was ever good enough, and any positive praise or affirmation was only due to God, not to us miserable sinners. Not that he ever used those exact words, but that was very clearly the idea. So it took me quite a few years to learn to really accept myself, that, yeah, I'm okay as I am, and that it takes doing that to really be able to make any progress. And then later, like somebody said in a meeting, look in a mirror and say, I love you to yourself. Well, that was like almost impossible at first. And I really learned to do that. And then it was years later, I was sitting in a meeting and went, oh, I like myself. That's a whole other level of, so yeah, it's been huge having these groups, and yeah, the support of other people who, like I said, have very similar emotional challenges, and yet, the being able to say anything, and from having been, what's the old saying, afraid to say boo to a goose, that I could actually share what was going on for myself, and there could be so much more to say about it, but I think that pretty much is the nutshell version of my process, and how much it's meant to me, and we'll have fully room in the forum to discuss it more. Thanks.